Uh, Good morning. This is Dr. Sunil Dutt, working as an assistant professor of physics at Department of Science and Technology of Faculty of Education and Methodology at Jayoti Vidyapeeth Women's University, Jaipur. So, topic for my today's presentation is diffraction. So, as all of you know, that diffraction is a phenomena uh, when an incident ray of light falls on an aperture or hole which is of the size of the wavelength of the incident light, then this light bends in the geometrical shadow of the aperture. So, in short, we can say that the bending of light from an aperture, the bending of light in the geometrical shadow of an aperture is called diffraction. So, basically, we can classify diffraction in two parts. One is the Fresnel type of diffraction, and another is the Fraunhofer type of diffraction. So what happens in the case of Fresnel diffraction? In the Fresnel diffraction, the distance between the source and the screen and the aperture. So these distances are finite. However, in case of Fraunhofer diffraction, we make such an arrangement with the help of optical instruments such as convex lenses that the light tend to appear coming from the infinite sources, because we know that when we put a source of light at the focal point of a convex lens, it converges or diverges the light rays. So when the source is kept at the focal length of first lens, which is L1, then the light rays will be parallel to the horizontal. So after the effect of diffraction, if we put another lens of which we call as L2, and we put our screen at the focal point of the another lens which we have called as L2, then the light rays will be focused at some point on the screen. So uh, you can see the diagram where the source S is placed in front of L1. After that, we have an aperture, and the width of aperture, which we have defined as small e, and uh, if we consider that the light ray which is coming parallel and falls on the upper part of the aperture, which we have called as A, and the lower part which we have labeled as B, then the light will be diffracted from these 2 points. And from these, this light ray will travel and go through point D, and from D it will be focused at a point P on the screen. For the light rays which are just passing through the center of the aperture and center of the lens, they are focused at point C. So here we can describe that the light from a monochromatic source S is converted into a parallel beam of light by convex lens L1. Now, this beam is incident normally on a slit AB and of width small e. And according to Huygens wave theory, we know that every point in slit AB sends out secondary wave which are superimposed to get diffracted on screen XY. So here we have given the name XY to the screen. So in this diffraction pattern, a central bright band is obtained because the rays from AB reached at point C in same phase, and here the intensity is maximum. So you can see when whether when all the rays are coming on the lens L2. So as the properties of a convex lens, the rays coming on different point on the of the lens are focused on point C. So we get maximum intensity at point C. And since most of the all of the rays are focused at point C, therefore this point C will be having the highest intensity. Okay, so alongside that, means alongside the point C, we also get a diffraction pattern having alternate dark and bright fringes of decreasing intensity. And this pattern will be observed on both of the sides of the center point C. The rays which are directed through an angle theta, we are considering that the diffraction angle is theta, by which the ray is deviated. Okay, so if we consider that the light is coming from this way and here is our aperture, so when it will hit from here, it will be get deviated at certain angle. So this angle is called as theta. Okay. So we considered that the diffraction angle is theta, and after passing through the lens L2, the rays are focused at a point P, and our aim is to find what will be the intensity at point P, whether it will be a dark fringe or a bright fringe. So this we know from our previous exercises that when the path difference uh, of two rays which are meeting at a point have odd multiple of lambda by 2, then the interference will be constructive. And when this path difference will be odd multiple of lambda by 2, then we will have constructive, destructive interference. Okay. So what we do, we plot a normal from point A of the slit on the uh, ray which we have named as BE. Okay, so we can see that here we get a right angle triangle which we call as AKB. So if we see in the figure, so we can say that the two rays ADP and BEP will travel almost the same path, except the ray BEP will have to travel an extra distance which we have called as BK. So we have to determine the value of this path which we have called as BK. So from the property of right angle triangle, uh, we know that the sine of the angle is equal to the perpendicular upon hypotenuse. So here the perpendicular is uh, AK and the hypotenuse is AB. So we can say that the path difference PK is equal to AB sine theta. And we know that the relation which we have discussed in the last lecture, that the phase difference phi is equal to 2 pi upon lambda times the path difference. Okay. And since we know that we have defined AB is the slit width which we have denoted as small e. So our path difference BK will be equal to E sin theta. So now we replace the value of E sin theta in this relation for phase difference. So our phase difference phi will be equal to 2 pi by lambda times E sin theta. Okay. Now what we consider, we considered that the slit AB slit, or the we can say the aperture AB is divided into large number of equal parts. And from the Huygens wave theory, we know that the every point of wavelet works as a secondary source of light. So from here we consider that the every point is originating new ray, and which is of amplitude small a. Then we can divide this phase difference into equal parts. And if we are considering that there are a small n number of points in this slit AB, and the total phase difference is, if delta uh, for two neighboring waves, then we can define delta is equal to 1 by n 2 pi by lambda into e sin theta, where this 2 pi by lambda into e sin theta is the total phase difference. So we have divided this phase difference by a numerical value which is given as small n. So now we have the phase difference for two successive waves, and from uh, an old principle which is known as the principle of n simple harmonic waves of same amplitude, then the resultant amplitude of all these light rays merging at point P will be given by, and if we consider this amplitude as capital R, then capital R will be equal to a sine n lambda and delta by 2 divided by sine delta by 2. Now, what we do to further simplify this expression, we consider that uh, that and we define a new symbol alpha in such a way that alpha is equal to n times delta by 2. And uh, since we have already defined delta as 1 by n 2 pi by lambda is sin theta, so n delta by 2 will be equal to pi by lambda e sin theta. So this value we have defined as alpha. Okay. So now we assume that n delta by 2 is equal to pi by lambda e sin theta. Then our expression for capital R will be equal to a sin alpha upon n. So from the algebraic functions, we know that for large value of small n, means if there are large number of divisions in the width of the slit AB, then sin alpha upon n tending to 0. And for very small angles, we know that the value of sin alpha becomes equal to the value of the angle. So we can say that sin alpha upon n will be simply equivalent to alpha upon n. So now we put this value of sin alpha upon n in the expression for the resultant amplitude capital R. So our expression will be R is equal to a sin alpha upon n. Or if we put this denominator n, which will go to the nominator, so this will be R is equal to n a sin alpha upon alpha. Now what we do, we define this n into a, means small a, which is the amplitude of each wavelet, each secondary wavelet, and there are n number, and we combine them and we call this these as the another symbol which we have given as a naught. So a naught is the total amplitude for all n number of secondary wavelets. So if we want to calculate the intensity at point P, then this intensity will be I is equal to R square. So intensity becomes equal to the square of the amplitude. So here we can say that the square of R will be A naught square sin square alpha upon alpha square. So this we denote as equation number 1. So from here we put certain conditions on this expression. So conditions are such that if uh, we consider that this point will have maximum intensity, and this maximum intensity is given by I naught, then I will be equal to I naught or simply A naught square. This will be the maximum value, and this value will be maximum when we have sin alpha upon alpha equal to 1. And this identity is possible when we consider that the value of alpha is tending towards 0. So for alpha tending to 0, this relation sin alpha upon alpha is equal to 1 holds valid. So we put this condition that limit alpha tending to 0 sin alpha upon alpha. So we can expand sin alpha. So 1 alpha will be there as already present, and sin alpha can be opened as alpha minus alpha qy factorial 3 plus alpha raised to the power 5 upon factorial 5 minus alpha raised to the power 7 upon factorial 7 plus and so on. Since alpha is a very small value, so the other higher degrees in alpha will be negligible. So what we have simply 1 upon alpha and alpha from the expansion. So alpha and alpha will be cancelled out. So what we will be having, we will be having only simply 1. So we can say that alpha is equal to 0. So value of alpha is pi by lambda e sin theta. So pi by lambda e sin theta will be equal to 0, since pi is a constant and lambda will be having certain value and e is also known to us. So we can say that sin theta is equal to 0 or theta is equal to 0. है ना? So this theta is equal to 0 will give us the value of position of central maxima. So this value of theta will be 0 for the central maximum, which will be at the midpoint of the slit or the aperture. So this point C on the screen is known as the central maxima or the principal maxima. So what will be the position of minima? This is the another condition, second condition, that what will be the position of the second minima. So this we will cover in the second half of this lecture.